The struggle bus is real.
Arielle's salty about it. Don't even worry about it.
Sorry about your luck.
She does not hate this man, though.
I
I
do.
do later on.
I did the whole time.
And Sarah is spiraling.
Yeah. Arielle is spiraling and texting Crystal. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know what that was, but here we are.
It's fucking devastating. So nobody has the cards I need, which understandable, but I think I might finish my album tomorrow if I bust my ass.
Sounds great for you.
Because the pickaxe event has a wild card, and I somehow, I don't know how, but somehow I completed in the top 3 for the side event that just ended. So I got a 5-star pack.
I also placed third.
Nice. Okay, so I
was
never
second
can,
yesterday. And
I
it still said I
never
had
can
like a day and
place-
like 5 hours left. So that's why I was
I
like,
never can place in the
oh,
top
cool.
3
I got fucking
on-
nothing. So it didn't even matter.
Well, I did you get one of the ones I need?
Get the fuck
Maybe-
no. You
Well,
get out of here because
no,
I still
but-
have so many more fucking
But
cards. I'm not
maybe I
helping
got
you
one.
anymore.
But listen, because maybe I
Nope.
got one you need and I could trade. Hey, I sent you a card that I had yesterday or whatever day that was. That's the only one I had, but I sent it to you.
How many cards do you have left till you're done?
3. But that doesn't mean I give you every card I can that you need. You just
15 more
never
cards.
have cards
Nope,
that I
nope,
need.
I have 25 more cards left.
You just never have cards that I need. But that's okay.
I'm just pissed at this pickaxe event. So I hate this event. Anywho, we're getting close to the end of May. Thank fuck for that shit. So over it. Oh,
Are you?
man.
We couldn't tell.
No, I'm having a great time. Having so much fun.
Hey,
Can't
this
you
book
tell?
was probably easier for you, right?
I guess. I think it's because I'm getting towards the end, so I'm just like so over it at this point that like not really. For those who don't want to listen to this entire episode, here's the book in a very slim nutshell. Lady sleeps with a dude, thinks she's never going to see him ever again. Oops, he's at the wedding. Oh my God, he likes her. They go back. He wants to hire her for things. He does. He falls in love with her. She doesn't want it 'cause she's traumatized. And then, oh no, oops, she loves him too. Ah! Then
And
they
no
fight.
sex.
And they have sex. They split up.
No sex.
They argue. There's no sex on screen. I'm not. Thank you for inserting that because I was skipping it for a reason.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
I don't even want to anymore. I was on a roll.
Ignore me. You're on a roll. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Keep going. Is it like anniversary edition? Are you just gonna recap us and then we can bitch the whole time and talk about Monopoly? Because that sounds cool. I can be down with that.
No. They argue. They split up. They get back together. They fall in love. Boom, done.
And closed door sex.
There's
Mostly.
not even close door. It wasn't even there.
Where
It is what it is.
are you,
Arielle's salty about it. Don't even worry
slut?
about it. And it's funny because you know what? She is the one who picked this book.
It had it in the last one and we read it from this author.
I don't remember, honestly.
Who is that hit or miss? God.
It depends on when this came out versus when that came out.
That's true. I didn't look at
So
that.
don't be that way because have we not learned our lesson?
That's true. That's true.
Arielle,
And honestly, I'm not as mad about it as
honestly, I'm not because of the fact of the type and style of book that this was. I wasn't
Right.
actually mad about it at all.
I actually am more mad about Dating and Dismemberment than I am about this one.
I'm not even mad about that one.
But that's what I'm saying. For me, I'm
Oh,
more salty about that book than I
she's
am
just
this
a
book.
salty,
I'm still a
salty
little
person.
salty, but
She's
I'm
like
less
the
salty.
ocean, salty as
am.
fuck.
I am. That's
You're
so
like-
funny.
What
I
else
am.
is salty? You're like ramen noodles.
The whole package, baby.
You're just the little
I am the whole
seasoning
package.
packets. The seasoning packets because they're so salty.
But I thought I was the whole package.
I mean,
I'm
you're
just
a
the
whole package
packet.
of other things.
I'm
You're
just
just a very
packet.
salty human.
I crave salt all the time. Does that count? Is that
You
why
should
I'm so
probably-
salty?
You should probably get that looked at. No, that's not why you're so salty.
Mm.
Oh, good Lord. No. So we're getting ready to wind down May. Technically, we only have one more episode after this, and then May's over.
If you're curious what we've been talking about at all, because we haven't said it, this week we read One Night Only by Catherine Walsh.
Yeah, and this is the continuation of Ariel's birthday month, and she thought she was giving me a wonderful prize of giving me a rom-com for this week. And while, yes, it helped my brain a little bit, I'm still pretty defeated with everything and I am struggling. Anyways, moving
Anyways,
on.
one night only.
Yes,
We are not one night only. Sorry about your luck. Just
we are
kidding.
not.
If you've made
Some
it this
people
far,
might think wish we
probably
were.
if you made it this far, you probably are not one of them. And thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
We appreciate you.
you guys are the bomb. Sorry, I would never
.com,
say that
baby.
again. I was gonna say the bomb diggity, and I'm like, nope, we're not going there.
I had both in my head and I just
You went bomb.com. God,
.com
why
wore
are we
out
so
more.
old? Now that we've gotten our age out of the way and we are old now and we have
We're-
made
but that's the
poor
thing, we're not old.
or you know what though? We are.
We're pop. I guess we're pop reference old, we should say.
We're old. It's fine. You know what though? Welcome.
Hello.
So, this book was a rom-com and guess what? We
Yes,
don't
it was.
have a trigger warning. We got nothing.
Because it was
Nothing
a
for you
Rami commie,
guys.
baby.
It's a
And it wasn't
Rami-commie.
even
Not a
explicit.
commie
So
though.
there you
This
go.
is not Russia. Sorry. Sorry. The book opens with our FMC, and she is not able to recall whoever is laying next to her's face. She's got no idea. She's got a really good back of his head, though. She also can't recall anything from the night before. So, listen,
I was just about to say, bitch can't remember nothing. Who you kidding?
I can say that has never happened to me. So, really,
Nor I.
I am winning at life.
We are true winners.
And I was a super whore. So, I like pat myself on the back, man.
She really was.
I really was. I had a whole draft.
But
It's
that's
fine.
okay.
But that's fine. We don't slut
We
shame in
are
this household.
we do not. We are all about
You
you
go be your
getting
good
your
slutty self.
yes.
Just remember the
You
things.
enjoy yourself.
Just
You
be
just
safe
wrap it before you tap it.
and be safe and get your very frequent checkups.
Yes.
Anyways, clearly, though, this woman has drank way too much the night before, and her phone goes off.
It's a habit.
It's a habit throughout the entire book. Her phone goes off, and a calendar notification goes off. She's supposed to be going for a run with her roommate, Claire, but can't help nighttime Sarah. Nighttime Sarah hates daytime Sarah. So we learned that our FMC's name is
I
Sarah.
fucking love that.
That was a great line.
Fucking
Because I feel that to my core. Clearly, it happens to me often where I'm like, you know what? Like last night, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play an hour of Sims. 5 hours later, did I play The Sims? But now she needs to try to wake this man up. And she tries poking him. It doesn't work out, by the way. So she gets up, throws some shit on, and then looks at her roommate so that her roommate knows what's about to happen. And she slams the door, and the guy just wakes up so startled. He is super hot. And as she says, with a superhero jaw that she may have licked.
I think it was more of a must have licked because she knows herself.
That is true. She probably definitely did. Tells him that she needs to head to work and he cannot stay. This man has a hot Irish accent, which, yes, please. He asks her what she's doing later tonight, and she tells him she's busy all of the nights, all of them, every single one of them. This man says that he doesn't normally sleep with someone after an hour of knowing them. And Sarah responds with, well, I do. Very clearly, by the way. He gets up and gets dressed. Claire is trying to give him coffee, and Sarah is really trying to get this man to leave. This man tells her that he had a great time and they had a lot of chemistry. Clearly, he is trying to get her to let him stay or at least have more fun times together. Sarah, not having it. And Claire rightly points out that she is so dumb because this man clearly wants more than a one night stand. Sarah, though, heads off to shower and then heads out to work. When she gets there, her coworker, Will, has gotten her coffee. For a little brief period of time, for like all of 10 minutes, I assumed that Will had a thing for her. Will is super gay, in case you're curious.
You thought she had a thing for her? I thought it was
At the
obvious that
at
he
the
was a
very,
like,
very beginning
oh.
with the coffee situation. And then after that, I was like, no, this man does
I
not.
thought they made it like obvious.
They are
like,
so cute though, and I love them.
Yeah.
Their friendship is adorable. We learned that Sarah had lost out on a promotion 3 weeks ago, and it was given to this guy named Matthias. She does not hate this man, though.
I
I do
do.
later on.
I did the whole time,
She
but I
doesn't.
also hate people, so let's
That is
just make
true.
that
Yeah.
clear.
She doesn't hate him, though she is super miserable for herself. But the coffee was because Harvey, her boss, had stopped by her desk, so she should really go see him. She checks her email and has one from her best friend Annie. Annie moved to London last year for her fiance's job, and they're also having an Irish wedding. And Sarah is a maid of honor, and she is very excited about this wedding. This place looks gorgeous, and the wedding is coming up very soon. Harvey calls for her and tells her that the Grayson group has decided that they wanted to move in a different direction. By the way, she is an architect.
And the Grayson Group was her biggest client at the moment.
They decided they want to move into a different direction and that what she had given them was uninspired and that he's going to give them to Matthias. But he needs her at her best, that she needs to go enjoy her vacation because he can tell she's kind of like struggling. He can eat a dick, by the way, and she needs to take a break.
The struggle bus is real for those who are on it.
Yes. Sarah's not thrilled about this whole Grayson group situation, and it's kind of eating her up inside as she heads home. This woman has not packed. She's literally leaving for Ireland in a day and has not packed anything, though
I
there is
feel like you
not
could
much that
relate.
literally my next note. Not much I can say because I am also a last minute packer. I finished packing. I to be honest, I packed for my Japan trip the day before and then the morning of as I threw the last few bits in, but normally I at least pack the night before. But like I get it. She's packing, she's talking with Claire about all the stuff that happened with her at work, and Claire assures her that this vacation will be good for her and she never takes a break and that sex with random men is not taking a break because Sarah's like, I do take breaks. She's like, that's not a break. That doesn't count. So together they pack up Sarah's stuff for her trip. As she's packing, she finds a random watch. Uh-oh. It's not hers. So she texts the one night stand to ask if it was his, that she's gonna leave it with her roommate because she's going out of town for a few days. And he texts her back that he's already outside. And she's panicking. He's not actually there, by the way. He was just fucking with her, which I thought was so,
Made you look.
so funny. Her and Claire talk about how Sarah meets men. Apparently, the guy that Claire has been crushing on is moving, and she's worried that she's going to be a spinster. And then Claire tells Sarah to bring her back an Irish husband.
I fucking loved Claire.
Claire was so great. I loved her so much.
She was a great example of, I can't ever meet a man. Well, why don't you go out and meet them?
I don't want to.
I'm not going to leave my house.
She's you.
Well, you have to leave your house to meet a man. I don't want to do that. Okay, then you're not going to meet a man. But I want to meet a man.
And the one man she loves is moving away. So Sarah lands in Dublin and Annie is picking her up from the airport. Sarah has missed Annie, so she's very, very happy to see her. We also learn that Annie, not the best driver in the world, and she's very, very accident prone behind the wheel. All Sarah can picture as she's putting her bags into this car is a headline.
Doesn't stop her from driving.
No, is a headline the next day that says bride to be killed days before her wedding in a car crash chaos. So her driving skills are very questionable.
She's all worried about it. And Annie's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. She's like, don't they drive on the wrong side here? Well, it's the same side as London. They get out to the car and there's a dent in the side of the car. And she goes, no, that happened the first day of the rental. That was just the first day. Nothing's happened since.
Annie's so great. I do like Annie.
Annie, you okay? You okay? You okay, Annie?
Clearly not. Annie tells her all about the tiny village that Paul grew up in, which is where the wedding is going to take place. Paul is her fiance. It's a small market village that now relies on visitors to the nearby medieval castle and a local hotel. It's a very, very tight knit community. So, as they're making their way to the hotel, they see Paul and they stop to pick him up. Of course, Sarah makes little comments about Paul, asking if he's been working out. And Annie tells her not to say anything because he's becoming the type of person who throws in how many push ups he's done in a conversation. They're so fucking cute together, though. So when they pull up to Paul, Annie tells him to get in, even though they're literally 5 minutes from where they need to be. And of course, Paul makes little comments about her driving skills too, which is also so funny that her fiance even knows. When they pull up, Sarah is amazed at how big and beautiful the hotel is. It looks like it should be on the cover of a storybook. The inside itself looks like it's been untouched. minus all the computers and tourist brochures at the front desk. So everything's been kind of preserved from years. The place is just stunning. We learn that all of the New York friends that they have, so it's Sarah and then the other people, we learn their names later on. Sarah is the only one who can make it to the wedding as the others couldn't get out of work. Annie asks Sarah to do her a favor. She wants to make Paul's family fall in love with her. She's met them a few times, but she's feeling like she really needs to make a really good first impression with these other people. A lot of them, by
She's
the way.
Yeah, she's only met the immediate family. This is literally all of his extended family.
So at the end of the tour of everything, Annie brings Sarah to her room before she heads off to meet Paul. It is a beautiful room, which honestly, I expect literally nothing else inside of this fabulous hotel. She goes back and forth on what to wear for dinner. She has no idea how fancy this dinner is going to be, but by the time she's done, she's running late. And as she's hurrying, she runs into Paul in the hallway. He had gotten sidetracked with work stuff, even though he is technically supposed to be on vacation, but it's fine. They'll be late together. She's asking Paul who to start with to make the rounds, and greet everybody and make those good first impressions. Paul tells her who some of these people are, and then all of a sudden he mentions his brother, who he didn't know had already arrived. Oh my God, guess what, guys? The one night stand from the beginning? Paul's brother. Sarah can see for a very brief second, this man is as surprised to see her as she is of him. But he manages to mask it very quickly. But she can also see there's trouble brewing underneath that surface of this man. The mystery man's name is Declan. He asks her if they've met before.
Because she still doesn't know his name.
He asks her if they've met before and that she looks so familiar. Of course, no one knows but them. Like they're the only people who know the truth. Annie says it's possible that they've met since Declan's in New York at the moment, and then she's interrupted from saying literally anything else by Paul and Declan's mom, Mary. I also really loved the mother. She was a fucking treat. I loved her a lot. Mary has put Declan and Sarah at a completely separate table than Annie had planned, and Sarah and Declan both realize it's a setup. The mom is trying to matchmaker this whole situation.
They quickly find out that they're at the reject table.
Sarah confronts Annie. She's really trying to set them up, and Annie just says that Paul's mom does like to play matchmaker, but assures her it's gonna be fine. Declan tries to make small talk with her, and it's so obvious he's just trying to make light of the situation. Also, he's a tiny bit drunk. He sees Uncle Trevor walking by and calls out to him a little bit, and Uncle Trevor tells him that he can't rely on Harry's charity for the rest of his life. He needs to be able to prove things for when he has a family and children. And Declan just goes, only when they can prove I'm the father. My shit. It's clear that Declan is just causing problems on purpose. Sarah finally realizes she's at the reject table. She accuses Declan of being the black sheep of the family. This man then, in turn, decides to psychoanalyze her and calls her out for how she kicked him out and that someone broke her heart back home and that she ran away to New York and told herself that she'd be independent forever. Turns out it was actually her parents who fucked her up, not a breakup, which is also a lie because this breakup totally did. But, anyways, they decide then to out trauma each other, which is wild. He tells her that if she impresses him, that he will introduce her to the cousin who tried to start a nudist movement. And as they continue sharing their family things, in pops this guy named Robert, asking Declan if things are going well in New York, and Sarah thinks that the way Declan is responding is a bit rude. Declan just claims that it's a family feud and he stole our cattle, we stole his sheep, how it is around these parts. Declan is clearly drunk. He asks Sarah if she wants to get out of there, but she says that she needs to stay for Annie. And all of a sudden, Mary the mom just arrives, and Declan basically tells her he knows what she's doing and to stop it. And then this motherfucker lets the bomb drop that him and Sarah already know each other because they've already slept together. And this is how Annie finds out about Declan and Sarah. But Declan takes off, and Sarah is fucking shell-shocked and decides to get shit-faced. Because that is the correct way to handle that situation. This is a bad idea because they're on a tour the next morning and she feels like absolute fucking shit. She is so hungover, and that mixed with jet lag is not a good combination. This guy, Connor, asks her what she thinks about this castle that they're touring, and she is just not doing very well. Sarah realizes that while everyone around her is having a great time, Mary, the mom, is the only one seeming to not be having a great time. Annie whispers to Sarah that Mary is just waiting for her to talk to her. She feels very bad about what happened. So Sarah heads over to Mary and Mary apologizes, but then asks if her and Declan just didn't get on or if he was bad in bed, which that is such an out of pocket question for a mom to ask. Is my son just bad in bed? Sarah just tells her she's not looking for a relationship right now. Decides, though, that she wants to get gone and needs to walk back to the hotel and she needs air. It is a 40-minute walk, and Annie's like, "Oh, I'll go back with you." But Sarah insists, I am jet lagged and so hungover I could cry. It's a miracle I've lasted this long. And if I put one foot on that bus, I guarantee I will spew all over your future mother in law, which is quite the picture to paint. But Annie lets her go anyways. And as she's walking, she does not realize that the weather is changing and it starts to absolutely downpour. So she heads inside a random building and it's this cute little store. The owner of the shop, Mick, tells her that she can just chill there. There are magazines that she could look at. But then another person enters the store as she's like in the back. Sarah can tell who it is by the voice. So she's just trying to put as much space between them as possible because it's Declan for the record, in case you didn't know where this was going. And she doesn't want to interact with this man. She knows that they are going to have to talk eventually, but right now is not that time. So she starts eyeing her way out of this. But as she's about to head out, Mick calls out to her, letting her know it's still raining. Sarah now knows that Declan will know she's there. She goes and pays for the magazine that she was reading and goes to leave. And then she slips on the wet floor, but Declan catches her. She is definitely not staying in the store now and heads out, trying to walk as quickly as possible to the hotel. The next few days pass quickly, and she has not spoken to Declan at all or anything because she's barely seen this man. She thinks that the reason he hasn't been around is because of her. Annie all but confirms this when Sarah finally confronts her, and Annie just said that he said he was going to stay in the village to make things easier for her, which honestly is kind of sweet. Sarah is kind of upset about this, but she is not about to admit that. Annie asks if she wants to break her famous one night only rule. Sarah is uncomfortable with this line of questioning, but Annie asks if she's ever been on a second date with someone since Josh. They don't talk about Josh, and we do not learn much about him, but obviously he fucked her up. Also, I feel like that is such a common name for people who fuck you up. Such a shitty person. Anyways, Annie then just tells her that she's glad that she's cool with, coming all this way for the wedding and having to deal with anybody. And who knows, maybe Sarah and Declan could even become friends. Sarah does not want to go that far. So more events happen, and an hour into the evening festivities, Declan appears, and boy, was he looking so hot and dressed up. He apologizes and doesn't want her to think that he was avoiding her, and he asks her to dance. She tells him, not right now. He instead talks with her and asks her how she's finding it on their fair isle. She thinks it's pretty, and he's a little offended and says that if there's no sentimental feelings about returning to the land of your ancestors. She's not Irish, by the way. And then he asks her if she would like some Irish in her. That's, I think he's funny. I think he is funny, and I probably would have fucked this man many times with the words that came out of his mouth. And the accent. It's the accent that does it. Sarah does eventually give in and tells him that they can dance, but just one song. And as they're dancing, Declan says that he actually did come there for an ulterior motive. He wants a work favor, that he's renovating a cottage and he wants to pick her brain. It gets decided that they will go in the morning, and she is not going to charge him, though she's definitely getting some dirty thoughts in her head about him. But she's also a tad bit paranoid, wondering if Mary put Declan up to this. Sarah does not form attachments, which that's a problem. You should probably look into that. She probably needs a therapist. The next morning, she gets up early and they head out to this cottage. The car ride is full of polite conversation, and when they get to the cottage, it's old and falling apart, and it needs a ton of work. Sarah's mind is thinking about all the different things that she could do with this place to keep its original features. We learn that Declan is a travel agent, or at least he will be, and he's starting a boutique agency for the ancestry market. This cottage will be part of that, and it's like a chance to stay in a real Irish cottage. Through all of the sentimental it becomes very clear, mostly because he is a very terrible liar, that this cottage isn't actually a cottage from his own family because he was like, oh, it's from my own family. It was my great, great, great. He can't keep his story straight, and Sarah very much calls him out on it. But he is very serious about showing her that this isn't just a building, and he wasn't trying to trick her. Sarah tells him that he's gonna have to basically knock the whole cottage down and it would have to be completely rebuilt to make it habitable. Sarah then tells him that it has a lot of promise, but he needs to do it right if he is serious about it. And he says that he is serious. So she gives him some advice and she goes into architect mode. So they go back to the hotel. And then she's meeting up with Annie and they're going to go down to the pub. And it's supposed to be a nice night. It is not. Basically, the entire village is there to celebrate. Which, I mean, if you're in a tiny village where everyone is so like connected and words that I can't think of that explains that.
The town is literally just his family's town. Everybody's related to everybody. So a big party for the town. It's like because it's everybody knows everybody. It's everybody's family.
Sarah decides that she's not going to be drinking because one of them needs to be sober, and clearly it's not going to be Annie. And Annie starts putting the drinks back. Normally, she's only a white wine drinker and occasionally vodka, but she starts fucking downing Guinness, which I actually do like Guinness. I am assuming that this is just so she can keep up with the family. And then after some time, all of a sudden, Annie just starts to feel like shit. And she goes up to Sarah and tells her that she's pretty sure she's basically about to throw up. So Sarah pulls her off the dance floor, takes her to the restroom, and Sarah decides at that point she is going to take Annie back home. She lets everybody know that she's taking her. Paul says he'll go with them, but Annie insists that she's fine and Sarah's got her. So Sarah drives the car back to the hotel. And then all of a sudden, Annie just fucking starts to spiral when they get back to the hotel room. And she's having doubts about the whole wedding. And then she also lets Sarah know that they're not planning on
Drunk
going
off
back.
her ass.
She is fucking shit faced. They're not planning on going back to New York and that they've decided to move to Dublin. Annie is the one who wants to do the move, and she's the one who asked Paul to move there. But it was something she thought she wanted, but now she's not so sure, especially with Sarah coming back and hanging out with her, and she doesn't have any
And she's
friends.
been holding this in,
I know.
afraid to tell whatever the fuck her name is. I just had a moment.
Sarah?
She's been afraid to tell Sarah
Yeah.
all about this, how she wasn't coming back. And it's fucking devastating Sarah. And now it's just all tumbling out.
Yeah. And it keeps going. And then Annie also thinks that she should have just had sex with more people. That way she could have just had known for sure. And then she just like stops because behind Sarah is Declan and he's just standing there. And obviously he came to check on them because he came straight from the pub. And he confronts her and asks if she's having doubts. And of course, she lies and says no. But Declan just continues and says, you know what? You should listen to your conscience. And if your conscience is telling you not to marry Paul, then we'll call it off. You haven't signed anything yet. But Annie insists that she does want to marry Paul. And Declan tells her that Paul
She's
really...
like, wait, what? No, I do want to marry him.
love
little
'cause
reverse psychology.
He knew exactly what to say to her to like get her to see. He does say that Paul really does love her and he loves her more than he has seen anybody love anybody else. And he knows that the two of them will make it work. And it's because he's a secret romantic. So he knows a thing or two about these things. So basically, Declan has calmed Annie down from her huge meltdown, even though Sarah's like, that was supposed to be my job. And as soon as Annie is asleep, Declan asks Sarah if she wants to have a nightcap. And even though she should totally turn around and not go, she follows him anyways. And they end up going to the big kitchen part of the restaurant in the hotel to drink. Of course, Declan says that he's worked there before, so he knows what he's doing, and they start drinking together. And drunk Sarah is kind of like, you know what? Annie was supposed to make everything better, though that's too much pressure to put on somebody. And she's been really stuck, and she lost out on a promotion at work, and it's super thrown her off. And she really, really thought that she was going to get it, but it was given to the boy wonder of the office. Blech. But he's such a nice guy, so she can't even be too mad that he got... Poor Declan, man, he's had two women just like word vomit at him at this point. She asked Declan if he's going to apologize for telling Annie and Paul and his mother about them when she had said not to say anything. And Declan responds that, to be fair, she did shut the door in his face. And Sarah claims it's only because he didn't leave like he was supposed to. we learned that Declan has never had a one night stand before. And then, of course, he teases her about flirting with him when in reality he had just left his watch there. And then following him across the ocean, even though he literally got there after her. So it was a cute back and forth, but she does inform him that she's not looking for anything serious at the moment. And then we learn about her ex. They had met through an app and she was so attracted to him and she never felt anything like what she had with him before. And she thought, watching her dad go through her mom's affair because her parents are divorced because her mom cheated on her dad with her soccer coach. That would have taught her something about setting boundaries or protection, but instead she just let her guard down. And Declan tells her that's not like they can avoid each other forever because now they have a mutual friend group. And Declan asks her if she's getting cold. Basically, this man is trying to get her to go inside with him. And you know what? Sarah basically just says, fuck it, and kisses him. And then she just says, you know what? I'm never going to see him again. Then they fuck. And the only reason we know this is because they do it off screen and we get the next morning, which Arielle is pretty mad about.
He takes my hand and leads me down the hall. And then it's the fucking next morning.
And Sarah is spiraling.
And Arielle is spiraling and texting Crystal. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Sarah's spiraling again. She's asking herself, why does she always do this to herself? And that she can't go,
why do we always do this?
We don't always do this.
Why do we ever do this?
No, it's not on purpose. Chill yourself down a notch. Good Lord.
Unsmutty books should be banned.
No.
Just kidding. Just kidding. A joke. Ha 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 ha.
Sometimes I actually enjoy the closed door. I do.
Shut your whore mouth.
No, like sometimes that's the mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for it. It happens because sometimes I feel like a book gets ruined that way. There is ways to. I'm not going to explain myself to you. I said what I said. Anyways, why can't she go 1 week without making a bad decision? And then her phone starts buzzing and it's Annie.
Why can't you go?
I said what I said. She starts throwing her clothes on because, oh shit, there's a few more hours before makeup and hair people are arriving because it's the day of the wedding. And as she's leaving, she sees Mary. But Mary says that, oh my God, I need your help. Nothing's wrong with Annie. But all of a sudden, it's just the weather and it's going to be so fucking hot. Sarah's confused because she's like, I thought they were worried it was going to rain. But no, it's only going to be super hot. But Mary tells her that they can handle a little bit of rain, but a heat wave for them is not great. And especially in a tent and there's no air conditioning. And oh my God, what are we going to do? Sarah pretty much is trying to tell Mary not to worry. She's going to go check on Annie. And why doesn't she see about trying to get some fans? When she goes to wake Annie
says,
up,
Annie, are you okay? You okay? You okay?
Annie is not. She tells her she needs to get up now because she's going to get married in a few hours. And Annie is so fucking hungover from the previous night. Annie just looks miserable. She's having a hard time eating anything or drinking. She's got a nasty ass headache. And Sarah, being the seasoned hangover queen, gives her some pills for her headache and tells her to drink her vitamin C and that she needs a little bit of sugar. And then everything starts soupening. That's not even a word. Starts happening really, really fast. All of the parents show up. The photographer shows up.
Stop trying to make soupening happening.
Get the fuck out of here. Makeup has showed up. Things are it's going down.
She's yelling timber.
So then they all head down to the entrance and Sarah decides to try to go find Mary. And she just sees Mary fixing Declan's tux. And of course, Sarah thinks he is super fucking hot. But he's also super flustered, but she can hear Mary talking to Declan. And Mary was totally pep talking him. Declan asks if she was worried that he was going to ruin this for Paul, but Mary says that she wasn't worried at all. And she's just very, very proud of him. And then Mary walks away and Declan instantly snaps his head up to where Sarah is. And she's about to apologize, but he just ends up frowning at Sarah. And of course, she's confused. I'm confused. Everyone's confused as to why he's frowning at her. Because she looks super hot. Of course, Mary comments how beautiful Sarah looks, which also further proves that something's got to be going on with him. Because she's like, dude, everyone thinks I look fantastic. What is with your face?
So you think you're pretty?
Yeah. So then she goes to the lobby and she sees Annie. And Annie looks absolutely gorgeous. And of course, Annie looks panicked as well. And she asks Sarah where she went. And of course, Sarah makes a joke about, oh my God, Paul tried to escape. She's lying, but she's just literally trying to make her feel a little bit better and a little bit more at ease. And it's showtime, baby. It is hot as hell. And they're basically being roasted alive inside of this tent. And they've only been in there for 20 minutes, but Mary was right.
Crystal's over here like, bitch, please. That's my everyday.
No, apparently it is hotter than Florida. Throughout everything in the ceremony, Sarah just keeps looking at Declan, but Declan has not looked at her once. And it's as if he's purposely ignoring her. She should be relieved, but honestly, it's kind of bothering her. And then during the vows, Annie faints. And of course, she is super fucking embarrassed. But Sarah insists that it was the heat. And of course, Annie jokes that she was like a sickly Victorian lady, which is so funny. The tension between Declan and Sarah is still there, especially during pictures when they have to get pictures of just the two of them together. It was just super fucking awkward. And of course, Sarah's in her head, and all she can think of is she just wants him to tell her that she looks pretty, which understandable. Of course, the only time Declan makes actual eye contact with her is after her maid of honor speech, and it meant more to her than she would have liked to admit. And then finally, after all the speeches and the dinner was done, they just have a big, giant party. You would think that after the first few songs, people would get tired, but no. No, the night continues and so much more dancing happens. Eventually, Sarah needs a break and sits down. Of course, as she's sitting down, Paul brings her some water and they just have a little bit of a conversation. And Sarah asks where Declan went because she hadn't seen Declan since dinner. Apparently, he had to catch a flight right after the speeches and he had to go back to work and go back to New York. And of course, she's a little upset because she can't even believe that Declan left without saying goodbye. But the little voice inside of her said, you know, you wanted him gone. But she also wanted to be the one to say goodbye to him. And she knows it's childish. Yes, bitch, it's very childish. But she wants to be the one with the last word. She's going to enjoy the rest of her time because she knows that pretty soon she will also be on a plane back to New York and everything will go back to normal, which is great, I guess. So then we get a couple weeks later and she gets a you up text at 2 a.m. and it's just a booty call. And all she has in the description for the name is glasses has a cat. Does not know his name, but she knows the cat's name, which is so funny. But she's sitting at her apartment watching a serial killer documentary, not silly. Serial killer documentary, which I personally can understand because that's exactly what I would be doing and that's what I do all the time. But then her phone vibrates again and the text just says, sorry, wrong number. And all she can think of is, that's rude. Of course, this sends her into the spiral of looking through her phone. And there's no new messages, no emails, no likes, no news updates, quite literally nothing. And the last text that she can see from Declan was, made you look. And that it's saved under Dark Hair O'Shea's, which is the name of the bar that they had met at. And she's also thinking, like, he hasn't collected his watch at all. Also, she hasn't asked him to. And hey, maybe he forgot about it or he doesn't want to see her again. But she also feels like she needs closure because she didn't like how they left things. And then she hears her roommate coming in, and her roommate was concerned that she woke her up, but Sarah admits that she couldn't sleep. And Claire said she got invited to her boss's annual party and she needs Sarah to go with her and that she doesn't have anybody else. And Mark will be there. And Mark is the guy that she has a super huge, big crush on who's leaving. And he's supposed to be in Seattle, but I guess he's coming back for the party. And Claire just says that she just wants to show up and look stunning. Party is not for a couple of weeks, but in that if she really didn't need her, she wouldn't have asked Sarah to go. So Sarah just agrees. But she's going to go and yeah. So at work the next day, we learned that someone in the department has been let go, but also like a couple other people have been let go as well. But sitting at her desk, Sarah looks through the email from Annie and it's just a bunch of pictures from the wedding. Of course, she ends up lingering on one of the group pictures and she just stares at Declan. And he is so charming and handsome. As she's leaving work for the day, Matthias stops her and asks her if she's doing anything tonight and that he's meeting some friends at the greenery later and she can join them if she would like to, and that maybe they could also grab a drink beforehand. She is confused and she asks if he is asking her on a date. And he goes, no, we work together. That would be inappropriate. He's totally flirting with her and he totally meant to ask her as a date. Sarah does say, you know, I better not, and that she has to get up early to go to the gym, and that she promises that is not a fake excuse. She literally is going to go to the gym with her roommate. Matthias just says, okay, another time. So then she meets up with her friend Soraya. Soraya? I said Soraya.
I was calling her Soraya.
Even though that sounds like psoriasis. And she is telling her all about the stuff that happened with Matthias. And of course, as they're sitting there talking, men keep coming up to her friend, basically trying to hit on her, but she wants nothing to do with any of these people at all. Soraya is kind of insistent that she should just give the guy a chance, and who knows, she might even like him. But Sarah isn't super sure. She thinks back to all of the encounters that they've had over the years, and she's just assumed he was always super friendly with everybody, but maybe he also is making his move now. So then she tried to imagine what it would be like if she ended up saying yes to him, and what would happen if they went to drinks and then them going out, and could it really be super simple? But she doesn't feel like it would be simple. It just feels hard and nerve-wracking. Soraya gets a message from David, which is a guy she's been talking to for a couple of weeks. And she met him on Connect, which is kind of like Bumble, but apparently only for attractive people, which is wild. And that they went to lunch at an Italian place in the village a few weeks ago and they hit it off. And Sarah's telling her that she should just invite him to one of Claudia's parties. But Soraya tells her that they're taking things slow, of course. They've had sex, but still taking things slow.
She didn't say stand still. She said slow. You need to know if it's worth going forward. Some of us have learned that the hard way.
You need to try it before you buy it, okay?
Yes.
110%. And I don't care if people
Absolutely.
are like, why did
Nope.
it?
Try it
No,
before you buy it.
I
This
don't
is
care.
not the 1950s. Try it before you buy it.
You need to. You need to. Because what if you get
Abso-fucking-lutely.
stuck with a tiny dick for the rest of your life? What the hell?
Ugh.
Ugh,
Especially if they
no
don't know how
one
to
wants
use it.
that. Right? Exactly. No one wants to have to take care of your own self for the rest of your life. That sounds terrible. I want other people to do things for me. I'm lazy.
She is. If you've learned anything from this podcast, know how
It is. I
lazy
am a pillow
Crystal.
princess, okay, bitch?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Crystal likes to be taken care of.
I do.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that is my prerogative.
Know
Says
yourself.
Brittany. It's my prerogative. Okay. Anyways, so they're discussing Annie's bachelorette party. She sees a man standing at a picnic blanket, and the guy is super familiar to her. And she realizes that her and Josh used to come here all the time, but it's not him. She was super fucking freaking out about it. So it's been a month since she met Declan, a month since the wedding, and there's still no word from him at all. She keeps telling herself it's for the best, but she keeps also having a lot of sex dreams about him. And she's currently at work.
One does not mean a lot. And it scared the shit out of her because she'd never had one before.
Who knows? She could, in theory, be having a lot of them. We just don't know. I'm just saying. Where there's one, there's more.
Possibly. But she talked about the one a lot.
Yeah, I know. She's at an engagement party for her coworker Susie, and it's kind of brought up like, why is Matthias staring at you? She doesn't believe that he is doing it. He is, by the way. He's being a creeper. But Sarah downs some more drinks, and she realizes Matthias really is actually staring at her, and he smiles at her, so she sets her glass down, sprays herself with a little bit of perfume that she keeps in her desk because they do all of these parties at the office. Now this man is like behind her. He is a fast moving motherfucker. And they're having a little bit of a conversation, and Sarah just thinks like he's super handsome. So she asks him about getting some drinks and dinner, and he just comes up with, okay, what about Saturday, which is the next day. So she heads home. She's excited about this, and she wants to tell Claire when she gets there. Oh, she wants to tell Claire. But when she gets home, Claire tells her Declan came by to get his watch. And of course, she has almost forgotten about the stupid watch, but maybe he came by knowing she wasn't going to be there so that she wouldn't see him. And of course, she is spiraling in her head, and Claire is trying to snap her out of it. And Sarah asks, like, what he said. This man didn't say much at all. He apologized for the watch, and then he started making small talk about taxes, which is insane. Claire, of course, knows everything that had happened in Ireland, and she knew that they had slept together. But Claire thinks that he was buying time himself to like hopefully see Sarah. Sarah doesn't think that. Sarah, you were wrong. Very clearly. Who talks about taxes? Who?
Accountants?
He's not.
You asked a question.
I did, you're right. But then we have date night with Matthias. And of course, Sarah is thinking that she's got nothing to wear because everything she puts on is too revealing. Girl, nothing is too revealing on a date. I'm just saying. You got it, flaunt that shit.
That is a lie. Depends where you're going. I think it depends on, well, I mean, I guess, okay. I shouldn't say nothing is too, it depends on your comfort level and where you're going. And because nothing could be too revealing if you're not in a nudist colony.
Well, if
Let's
she's going out
see.
with that cousin who ran the
What
nudist
is it?
colony, she'd be fine.
What is it, the thing that Tarzan wears?
A
The little
loincloth?
flappy thing? A loincloth. A loincloth could be too revealing if they're going anywhere with laws.
I think she was just more concerned her tits were out. But you know what? Tits out, baby. Tits out. She knows that they're not at the office, but she feels like it's going to take at least.
She's more concerned about him seeing her in non-work attire when he's
Well,
used to
yeah, because she thinks it's going to take
and
multiple
blurring
dates.
those lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to take her multiple dates before like she can separate the job dude from a date dude. You know what I mean? She also was super ready to cancel, or she was going to drag Claire along with her and pretend it was like a group thing. But she did eventually leave her apartment, which I feel like Arielle would be doing that when she's thinking of a date. Be like, oh, I should cancel. No, wait, maybe I should just like casually make this into a group date and it'd be fine. But you wouldn't leave your house, so you'd be like, I'm sick.
I actually got invited out to like this like dinner thing for work tonight, and weird, I'm right here.
You have a date. We're on a date. This is a date. No one can tell me otherwise. You just be like, I'm on it. I'm going on a date. We're a date.
They would be like,
It'd be great. I would love to see their faces. And oh my God, you should see your faces. Your brain went there too. Oh, yes. Ah, Taylor Swift. Beautiful creature. And Matthias is waiting for her outside of her apartment. But as she gets outside with him, all she can think of is that she literally feels nothing at all. And it's not that she's broken inside, she just doesn't feel anything. And it hits her that,
for him.
but as she gets outside with him, all she can think of is that nothing, nothing. But then it hits her. Oh my God, she's on a date with Matthias Scott. Who gives a shit? And he sorry, and he holds the door open for her. It's it's a really nice place, but he does tell her that if this goes badly, they don't ever have to talk about it again, which is probably not something you should talk about on a date. And they have a little bit of a conversation about work as well, but they start talking about the Grayson group and how they decided they were going to do a terrace on the fourth floor. And she is shocked because she says that was my idea. And he goes, oh, was it? And then she asks him if he even looked at the floor plan. And she says that if they're rethinking things, maybe Matthias could bring her back on. And Matthias just says that maybe. And as they're on this date, she finally decides, you know what? We need to stop talking about work. And she asks what his drink of choice is. And he just says he thinks that whiskey is their specialty. And of course, all she can think about is the last time that she had whiskey. Matthias mentioned that they do a tasting on Thursdays and they could see if they should go. And of course, before he can even finish this conversation, she is interrupted by a man, and it is Declan. And he just says, I wouldn't if I were you. Trust me, I'm speaking on this from experience. Of course, Matthias is looking between the two of them and asking if they know each other. And Sarah just says, Declan is my best friend's brother-in-law. We were just at the wedding. And Matthias says, oh yeah, Harvey said you were a bride. This man is such an asshole. Like, it was in Ireland. It kind of seems like this man just doesn't pay attention to literally anything at all except for himself. And Matthias is trying to get some different drinks, and Sarah says she doesn't do sugary drinks or anything sweet at all. And of course, Declan is standing there and tries to recommend beer. And before Declan and Matthias can even have conversation, she just interrupts them, and she's not wanting them to basically speak to each other. So Matthias finally asks her how her trip was and asks her what a wedding was like over there. And they're different, but whatever. They can be, but I'm just saying this man is an idiot. And she just says it was super exhausting. So Declan drops off two coasters on the bar and gives them their drinks. So he is a bartender at this bar. He just tells her it was nice to see her again. Of course, Matthias can kind of sense what's going on and tells her that they can go somewhere else, but she insists that they're fine and he's not making her uncomfortable at all. And she's just a little bit nervous. Then Matthias gets a phone call, and apparently it is his sister, and that she is currently in the city, locked out of the apartment. And she insists that he can take the phone call. Of course, as soon as Matthias steps out, Declan is there, and he tells her that she looks well. And she calls him out for being a barman, and he just says, I am a man of many talents. Sarah, you seem mad.
Well, she calls him out because she's like, I thought you were a travel agent.
Yeah. He's a man of many talents, Sarah. And he asks her where her boyfriend went, and she tells him that this is not working. You are not getting to me. This man is very clearly getting to her. He says, I'm not trying to get to you, Sarah, because I don't need to try. You know what happens when you get annoyed? Like really annoyed, you get these two bright little red spots on your cheekbones right there. And then he is so close to her and he just whispers to her, it's the exact same look you get when you orgasm. Yeah. And then he does admit he was actually there to get to her. And then Matthias comes back in and Declan asks how the two of them know each other. And Matthias explains that they work together and he's the senior project architect. And Declan asks this guy, are you the guy that took her job? I was like, dude. Matthias seems a little bit uncomfortable, but then she confronts Declan. After she asks Matthias to get a table over by the window, asks him what his game is here and that it's been radio silent for weeks. And then the other night, he just happened to drop by the one time she's not there and that he could have texted her to give her a heads up. But Declan says he didn't think.
Were you waiting for me this whole time? Were you
Yeah.
home just waiting, thinking I might show up for my watch?
Yeah. He didn't think that she would respond. And then Declan asks where her boyfriend went. Apparently, Matthias no longer there. And then he walks straight out the front door.
Poof.
Yeah. After he tried to get her attention, and that he also left her with the check as well. Declan and Sarah keep having a back and forth, and finally he just asks her what her issue is. And she just tells him that he's the one who disappeared and that he didn't even say goodbye. But of course, she didn't want to admit any of this out loud, but she did. And she just goes, you know what? I'm leaving. But he tells her what he thought she wanted. And she assures him that he thought right, but obviously she's very much contradicting herself all the time. And then she leaves and she sees Matthias outside typing on his phone. She apologizes to him, but he also said he was going to apologize because his sister really did actually lock herself out of the apartment and he's just going to go help her out. And she apologizes for being super rude and he just tells her to have a good weekend. Sarah is grumpy and she's thinking about everything that happened between her and Declan, thinking about stuff that happened with Matthias. And of course, Will at work is calling her out for it and calling her out for being grumpy and that if she's going to be like this all week, he's going to call out. I get it. She tells Will how Matthias had asked her out. And of course, this is after she was upset at him for telling Matthias that she slept around. So apparently, Will, like, Matthias was asking him about her and he just commented that she sleeps around. He's like, well, you do. She's like, well, he doesn't need to know that. Oh man. She also sent out an email to Annie, which she sounds so obsessive. And she even admits is a little obsessive because she's just asking what Declan actually does. Because she's like, I thought he ran a tourism business and now he tells me he runs a bar. And of course, she's spiraling.
She doesn't actually send it though. She just writes it.
I know, but it's still so funny. She asks Will if he ever gets the feeling someone's following him around throughout life. And she's just in a super bad mood. And she gets an email from her boss asking her to go to his office. And she's pretty sure that he's literally going to fire her. But when she gets up there, he just tells her they had someone ask for her. And, someone's leasing the floor below.
Request her.
Thank you.
For a job.
And now she's fucking confused because she's like, I thought I was getting fired. She also gets an instant message from Matthias saying that he was sorry how things ended the other night. She tells Will that Matthias is nice and Will just says he's harmless and one of the team until he takes your main client and then your job from right under your nose. Will does not like Matthias, by the way. And then Will asks if she slept with him. She says no. And then Matthias pops in and asks to have a moment with Sarah. He says that he shouldn't have run off on Saturday, but, she apologized. Again, feels like being super rude. And he's like, no one likes to bump into their exes. And she's like, bitch, he ain't my ex. Those are not the exact words, but bitch, he ain't my ex. But the same thing goes through Sarah's head again in that she feels no spark. And she tells Matthias that it would be better if they just remained friends. Obviously, a little bit embarrassed.
Because he asks if they can have a redo.
She's embarrassed and he's a little sad. But I can understand where she's coming from because you don't want to lead somebody on if you're not feeling that person. Later on that night, she's hanging out with Claire. And Claire has gotten an email from a guy. I'm assuming it's the same guy that is going to be at the party. They don't actually say who the email's from. I'm assuming it's that guy. I couldn't find the name.
Yes, they make it clear.
And they're just dissecting this email. Then Sarah asks Claire if she thinks that Sarah is a coward because she shuts herself off from potential relationships. Claire just tells her that she just doesn't want to get hurt again, so it's completely understandable and that there's nothing wrong with being on your own because you want to, but if she thinks that she's turning down something before it even starts, just because she's scared it may end badly, she wouldn't call her a coward, but definitely a pessimist. Claire in for the facts. Next, we get Sarah preparing for her meeting with her new client. As she's walking, she sees Declan leaning over a desk talking to someone, and then she's trying to get Will to come in with her.
In the meeting room.
Thank you. She's freaking out seeing Declan, which is understandable, but at the same time, this is your job, so you need to suck that shit up. Just saying. And she says that if Will go with her, she will give him her desk. Apparently, her desk is bigger and gets the perfect amount of sunlight, and Will has been after it for
By
years.
2 inches.
I know. Hey, those 2 inches matter, okay?
He measured.
Those 2 inches matter. Now, are they real 2 inches, or are they
Or
male?
are they amends 2 inches?
I'm assuming real 2 inches, but
He's gay, so probably.
yeah. So she'll give it to him right after the meeting, even if the meeting goes badly. And he agrees. Will asks if, hey, is that the guy you slept with? So begins this meeting. This meeting is 40 minutes long. She's physically aware of Declan, but she can't tell what he wants from her. And she also can't fucking concentrate. And as soon as this meeting is over, everyone starts walking out. And Declan is going to hang back and says that he just wants to get some juice. That's a lie. You're dumb. No, man, that's not what you want. But she asks him what the hell he's doing there. And he just says he's consulting. Oh my God. And again, she asks if he could have just like let her know and not just showing up to her office unannounced. And he goes, I made an appointment, which also his name's not on that appointment. She's just mad because he didn't tell her about it first. And he admits that he was going to, but he chickened out. He hung around her apartment so long when he went to get his watch, like an embarrassing long time. And he's pretty sure that her roommate thinks that he is stalking her or weirdly into taxes.
He went from cocky and kind of funny to puppy cutesy in like 0.02 seconds.
I liked it. I thought it was so cute.
I didn't say it was negative.
Oh,
I
okay.
was just
It's like it's so cute. Yeah. And
like, you think he's like, oh, he's just got
like this
got the quips
confident.
and like, right, and he's
No,
confident and walking in there, and
it's
then
not.
nope, you just want to like, oh, you poor
I
thing.
know. I just want to like hug him and like he had to work up the courage to even go to her apartment in the first place, which shows Sarah that he is actually super nervous. And he also tells her that he would like to see her again. She just says, okay, you can see me again. Asks her, well, what about this weekend? And he can give her the tour of their office and that they can talk. So she meets up with him the next day and he's got some coffee for her. Not coffee that she enjoys because she, again, does not do the sweet stuff. And this, like, fucking coffee is like something I would drink. I would love it. It sounds delicious. It's very, very sweet. And she notices that he's got his watch on and she just goes, huh, I see you got your watch back. No shit, you dumb dumb. He went there and got it. He said, I did. An extremely disappointing experience. Your roommate didn't even throw herself at me like you led me to believe, which was also very funny. And she just jokes back that, oh, well, she was afraid of coming on too strong. It's cute. And I love that they have this cute little banter going back and forth. And so then he shows her the office, and obviously this office is a mess. It's small, clean, one window, not a lot of light. And he says that, the new money will help them cover their overhead for a larger space. And she insists that she's not judging at all. And he tells her that they did start in a bar, but, Micah couldn't concentrate and he kept being called away. So he's going to give her a tour. And she asks about the fact that they're an all inclusive agency. And he's telling her, yeah, they'll do transport, accommodation, guides, everything. And it's only him and Micah right now, but they're hoping to open up an Irish office next year and expand here in the meantime. And they want to get some people who actually know what they're doing instead of just the two of them. He runs 2 bars currently, and he's not planning on doing both things. He's going to step away from the bars soon, and that he's really only an owner in name. And the main reason for it is for family, and that Harry, his uncle, is actually the real man behind the pubs. And it turns out he also owns O'Shea's, which is the first place where they met each other. She's like, oh, that's my favorite bar in the city. And he just says that he knows. He's seen her there a lot. And she's impressed with him and with everything with this business. And they're interrupted by this. I call her a little girl. She's a high schooler. And he greets her. And I guess her dad works in the office directly below them. And this girl's name is Elena. And she asks him if she's his girlfriend. He's like, no, this is my architect. And she looks like relieved, but also disappointed. Also, this girl has a crush on Declan. But she leaves. Declan asks about Matthias because he asks her if she was busy coming up next weekend because he has a singles brunch that he's hosting. And he didn't know if maybe she could come. She sets down the boundaries and says, hey, we need to keep things professional. And he promises and says, no more. They'll stay professional. So now comes the time for the singles brunch. Claire is going along with her. And
He was just asking for volunteers for the single brunch, not inviting her to
oh,
be a single at the
sorry.
singles brunch.
Thank you. Yeah. So Claire's
It's a distinction that's necessary.
It is, yeah. Claire is, don't worry. Claire is going along with her and they're showing up. And of course, it's at the bar, and it's decorated the most odd way with balloons and streamers and like decorations from different holidays, like all thrown together into one.
And like tons of bingo tables all set
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. This brunch is for 60 plus. So it's a singles brunch for old people, which is fucking funny. And they keep nice and busy. And when it finally calms down through everything, he calls her over and asks if she's ever poured a pint before. And he shows her exactly how to do it, which is also kind of cute. But then she asks him where the idea for the tour company came from. And he explains that when he was working at the hotel, a guy had come in and had gotten an email from a random woman in Dublin who was putting together a family tree. And he was nervous because the girl was going to come over and meet him. And when that ended up happening, this girl, it was not just her, it was like a shit ton of people with like adults, babies, dogs. So this lady had planned this whole family reunion because she had found him through like ancestry. And he had no idea that that he was connected to all these people. And Declan saw so much emotion in this that it stuck with him and he never forgot about it. Sarah didn't realize this was so personal and that he should put that on the website. He did, by the way. And he learned that Annie is coming back soon for a couple of weeks, and Declan suggests that maybe they should all go for lunch when they get there. And of course, Sarah's like, oh, as like a mutual friend group. Obviously, he doesn't mean a mutual friend lunch. So it's the day that Annie has come. And for some reason, they're doing a bachelorette party.
All of Annie's friends and family, except for Sarah and Annie's parents, could not afford to come to Ireland for her wedding or leading up to the wedding. And they knew that she was coming for this extended amount of time very shortly after the wedding. So they made plans to celebrate with her and do all the things that they would have wanted to do anyways during this time, even how ridiculous it is. Her friends didn't want to miss out on doing the bachelorette party with her and all that
Still
stuff, so they
weird.
planned for it during this time. I agree, but that is the
Thought it was
explanation.
so weird. Anyway, so Annie and Paul have arrived. Annie is going to go to a strip club with her girls. It was supposed to be a strip club with Magic Mike. They got the day wrong. And it's just women. Oh man. So all of the New York friends are together and the lady with the S name, Soraya,
Soraya.
says that they can go somewhere else. But honestly, Claudia's like, I already paid for drinks. And they end up having conversations with the strippers. And then they're talking about their skills and how badass it really is and great. And then Annie gets a FaceTime call from Paul and they're super cute together. And then you hear Declan in the background. Oh, is Sarah there? And he says hi to her. And then they hang up. And Soraya's like, we need to call them back right now because Declan is super fucking hot on this phone call. And Annie's just like, we're not doing that. And Soraya's like, just because you married one brother doesn't mean I can't sleep with the other one. I don't need your permission. And Annie just responds with, no, but you might need Sarah's. And that is how we learn. Well, we already know this. This is how her friends learn about her sleeping with Declan. And Annie now learns that they have slept together multiple times because Annie only knew about the one time. And it's such a shock because Sarah doesn't do that. Claudia calls Sarah out for her actually liking him, and they get back into the car because they're going to head home for the night. Turns out, no, they're not. They're going to O'Shea.
Soraya's like, nope.
Yeah. And as they sit down, like this guy comes up because they go over to a table and this dude named Robbie introduces himself. Fuck Robbie. He's going to share this table with them. As Robbie goes and leaves the drinks, Soraya grabs a waitress and tells her to tell Declan that Sarah's there. Sarah, mortified. I would also be mortified and I would disown these friends if that ever happened to me. And they're teasing her, saying, you love him, which is also funny and so true. She's not going to admit that. And Declan shows up to the table and turns out he actually invited them, but Paul vanished a while ago because he's a bit of a lightweight. So he's going to get them all a round of drinks. Sarah gets up to go to the bathroom, and as she gets there in there and she sits down, she realizes she is way more drunk than she thought she was, which is not great. And she leaves the bathroom and Robbie is there and he basically forces himself on her. Not basic, he does. He forces himself on her. She's just trying to be nice. And then Declan peels this man off of her and like shoves him into the wall and gets security called on him and kicks him out. Declan offers to call Sarah a cab, but she doesn't want any of that to happen. She doesn't want to ruin anybody's night. So he takes her to a back room where they take all the drunk people and has her sit down and put her head between her knees so she can just kind of sober up a little bit and just relax. And he just tells her, I'm not going to hurt you. I know what you're scared of, but I promise. And then she stops him and just tells him that he shouldn't make promises he can't keep. And then she vomits on him, which, what a time. We get Claire talking to Sarah about how 6 months ago, when the guy that Sarah was sleeping with kept stopping by the apartment, Sarah had told Claire whatever she wanted, she could have. And if Claire could convince this guy, she moved to Switzerland. Claire tells her that she's going to cash in that favor now. She wants Declan for the boss's party, just so that she can make Mark jealous. And, she's done everything she could. She's talked with him, flirted with him, worn beautiful dresses, done so many things to basically get this man to pay attention, and none of it has worked. So she thinks using Declan will help push that along a little bit. I hate that. This man has no idea, or he's purposely leading this woman on. Obvious. I hate it. I think that Claire could have done better. Anyways.
I think that she just loved him from afar, and he just also kind of loved her from afar, and both of them were too afraid to like let each other know.
I guess so. That's the nicer way
That's
to
what
look
I
at it.
think.
How are we on the complete opposite spectrums of this when literally I just had to like have a conversation with you about how things weren't red flags?
I just don't understand.
Oh my God. Declan had texted Claire that he was just a couple minutes away, and of course, Sarah is a little bit jealous. And they're also bringing Will along with them. She talked Will into going because she's like,
She doesn't want to be the third wheel.
that, and he wasn't gonna go, but she goes, "Ma Clooney's gonna be there." So bribing him. You gotta, I mean, I don't want to go, but yeah. Declan does ask Claire, how handsy does he need to be? Just to get the point across. And Will asks Claire if Mark is her ex. And of course he's not. And he's just a colleague. They've never even slept together. And Will just stares at her and is like, you're in love with a
All
guy
this for that?
and you haven't even slept with him? And Claire's like, I'm not in love with him. Of course, Will's like, what if he's bad in bed? Again, we were talking. Fair fucking point. You don't want to spend all this time with him and he sucks. It's not great. So Sarah does apologize to Will because he's clearly not having fun at this party because he had originally had a date with the dentist, and she apologizes for making him cancel his date. The whole thing with Mark works extremely well with utilizing Declan for it. And now Claire and Mark are talking and doing their thing. And Declan leaves Claire to go talk with Sarah. And he's flirting with her and he compliments her on her dress and says, you wore that on purpose because that's the dress she wore the night that they went to the pub the night before the wedding. And they flirt a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, Will comes up and says, if you two can stop dry humping each other, your friend has some problems. Turns out Claire spilled wine all over her. She got distracted. Mark was finally looking at her and talking to her. He made a joke and she started to laugh, and then she missed her mouth with the wine and spilled it all over herself. But Declan wants to know, like, how are we going to play this? Like, am I the caring date who I'm going to whisk you off to go get the stain out of your dress? Or am I the dick? Am I the asshole who doesn't want to leave the party? And Claire says, you know what? I want you to play the asshole. Declan's like, yeah, I'm born for that role, baby. And he goes along with it. The plan ends up working because Mark ends up seeing Claire and takes her arm and guides her towards the elevator they're actually going to leave. And Mark is taking Claire home, guys. What do you think they're going to do? Hopefully the sex isn't trash. Sarah tells Declan that she's impressed because she...
Guess what? We're not going to find out in this book.
Arielle's so salty.
Call me a saltine.
I actually really love saltines.
Me too.
I haven't had one in so long.
Me either. I bought them as a school snack not that long ago because I was like, I haven't had these in forever. I'm going to make the kids eat them.
Sarah tells Declan that she was impressed because, Claire has been making googly eyes at this man for 3 years. 3 years. But this also means Sarah can't go home. He's also worried that Mark could break Claire's heart. But you know what? Whatever. So Declan and Sarah are going to go get food, and they don't want to be at this party anymore, so they're going to head out. Neither one of them know where they're going. Declan is just quiet for a minute, and he says, I have an idea. Declan leads her to a fancy hotel, and of course she makes a joke that she's not getting a hotel room with him. And when they get there, they meet this guy named Freddie, and Declan tells him he will give him $10 if he can get them onto the roof They end up settling for 20. Of course, if we know anything from Sarah, she does not like heights, which I have not mentioned this entire time, but you're welcome. Sarah fucking hates heights. Declan tells her to trust him. Sarah starts getting a lot of really dirty thoughts in her head while they're having a conversation. And throughout this conversation, Sarah does admit that she has no idea what she wants. And she just hopes that one day the answer will fall into her lap. And then she talks about the man who broke her heart, Josh, and that they had dated for over a year. And she had told him that she loved him. And then he broke up with her. She says that she's pretty sure he was cheating on her because he got married last year and that the wife he has is had moved into the apartment next to him for a few weeks before they broke up, and they had actually had dinner with her once before. And she then asked if he ever thinks about things like that, if you're just a blip in someone's life. And Declan, of course, says, "You're not just a blip." And Sarah says, "I'm an ex-girlfriend. I was like his practice wife." I felt that so hard in my soul. But Sarah says maybe she's just waiting for the right person and that she's a realist. And they continue going back and forth about their trauma. Also, it turns out he had been watching her for weeks at the bar that she was at and looking at her as she was on dates. And when he finally got his chance, he wasn't exactly thrilled when she kicked him out of her bed the next morning and that he had done all of this planning. He was a little stalkery. And then they start flirting a little bit back and forth. But then he tells Sarah that he's not doing this again. He's not going to have sex with her because then they'll go back to ignoring each other and fighting. And that he's going out of town for a few days. He doesn't want to have sex with her because he doesn't want to give her that much space so she can decide to start keeping things professional again. He wants to do things with her, but he can't. And she's the one who wanted to stay professional, of course, because she's an idiot. I mean, but they're going to stay up on the rooftop all night so they can watch the sunrise. And he is going to go to Chicago. He tells her he's going to Chicago. That's important. He keeps texting her while he's there, sending her selfies, asking her all these questions. And she's thinking these are all stupid. But she is like clinging to every little piece of communication this man is giving to her. And she thinks it's pathetic. But she, doesn't even care at this point. At the office, we learn more people are jumping ship, but we don't know exactly why. And she makes her way over to Matthias's desk and she starts finding his plans for the Grayson group. And she starts flipping through them. Turns out they're not Matthias's plans, they're hers. This motherfucker took them. Like, are you?
No, you don't say.
Just say.
The smooth weirdo was not the good guy after all.
No. She gets caught being in there and she
listen to Will because he
I know
Will is Will
right. knows things. Will is smart. And she plays.
If you didn't listen to Will throughout this whole book, you need to rework how you read and look for these characters and listen to the Wills.
The real life Wills.
And the real life Wills. This is just a PSA for life advice. Listen to those Wills.
Yeah, we give great life advice. You should totally listen to the advice we give you for your life.
I didn't say listen to us. I said listen to Will.
But we're the one telling them to listen to the Wills. So technically it's our own advice. I know, it's terrible, right? Anyways, so she gets caught being in there and she just plays it off like she's leaving him a note. Obviously, we know she was snooping. And he is a sneaky, sneaky man. So no wonder Will does not like him. After all this stuff, she realizes that she is not doing well. And then it also hits her that she misses Declan and he's the only person that she wants to talk to. So she Googles him. She finds a picture of him standing next to a woman saying that it's his wife, which leads her down more of a rabbit hole. And she finds a wedding announcement and a picture of them at the local church from 10 years ago. So, oh, fucking shit, he's married. And there's no articles of them divorcing either. So, like, they had to have gotten a divorce because Declan would have said something, Paul would have said something, but no one has said literally anything. So now she's wondering if Declan is a widower and also wondering why nobody has mentioned this woman to her at all. Annie calls her and they're just talking back and forth. And Annie asks her if she wants to go get lunch with her and Paul. And Sarah agrees. They're at lunch. Sarah basically just comes out with it and asks who Fiona is. And Paul asks if Declan had told her about her. And she says, no. Of course, Annie has no idea who this person is either. And then Paul says that it was Declan's wife and that they're separated. They've been officially separated for 2 years. They don't even see each other. And as far as they know,
that's not a past tense, motherfucker.
I know. As far as he knows, they don't talk. And she's not a part of his life anymore. She definitely wasn't a part of his life when Paul met Annie at all, and it's not as big of a deal as it seems. They were apparently together for years since they were 14, and then after college, Fiona got an offer to study in Chicago. They decided to marry before she went. The plan was for Declan to join her as soon as he could. Eventually, Fiona got into the swing of things and she made friends and she did really well. And by the time that Declan went over to see her, she was already moving on in the world and he just couldn't keep up with her. A few months later, she met somebody else, and that is what made Fiona decide that she didn't want to stay married to him anymore and asked for a divorce. Declan didn't want one and he refused. Obviously, Sarah, not okay with any of this information, and she asks if there's any more secrets. Paul says that Declan was going to tell Sarah when he came back and that he is currently in Boston. And Paul's confused because Sarah's like, no, Declan's in Chicago. So, sneaky, sneaky man. So, with all the sneaky men, stop it. When she gets back to work, she is pulled into a meeting with Harvey. And after this meeting, she doesn't have a job anymore. It's obvious that the firm is literally going down in flames, and she is just another one who no longer has a job. And she heads into a meeting room to cry. I would too. I would be bawling my eyes out. And Matthias knocks on the door and he comforts her and says that this might be the best move for her and that she wasn't doing well there, which is such a dick thing to say. And he says, it's not like you were raking in clients, Sarah. You know this was coming. You stopped trying months ago. I wanted to bitch slap this man. And she finally confronts him and asks if he had told Harvey to take her off the Grayson project. And she even tells him that he took everything from her for this. And he knew how much she had wanted it and how hard she had worked. And he just replies back with, maybe you didn't want it enough. Bitch, on site.
It was easy for me to take it. You let me take it. Obviously, you didn't want it
On
enough.
site. On site with this man. She heads home early because obviously this dick nugget is a fucking asshole. And she breaks down, yes, and tells Claire what happened. Of course, Mark is at the house because he's going to be leaving soon to Seattle and they want to make the most of their time because they're now all loved up and booed up. She insists that they, like, oh my God, I'll stay back. And she's like, no, 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 please just still go out. I will call Annie. And then she gets a text message from Declan saying that he's on his way back and he can't wait to see her. But she insists that she's not going to confront him. She's just going to talk to him and ask him politely about his wife. Bitch, I would burn the whole fucking world down if it happened. When she sees him,
This shit is storming.
when she sees him, he is absolutely wrecked. He looks super tired. It looks as if he didn't even go home, and obvious he's got an overnight bag. So he literally came straight from the airport. And he hasn't showered either. And she asks him how his flight was, and he kind of can sense that something is wrong. She tells him that she lost her job. Declan says that he is going to pull out and ditch this firm because how the fuck can they do this shit? And that this is absolutely ridiculous and that they really can't do this to her. And then she tells him that they need to talk. And she needs to ask him about some things. And she tells Declan that Paul told her about Fiona. Declan says he shouldn't have done that.
Way to throw Paul under the bus.
I know, right?
Like, you're the one who Googled all this shit, but
Yeah.
like,
Declan says it's because it's private. And now she's upset because she confronts him about lying to Paul. And he said he didn't want Paul to worry about him and her and everything. And that the last time Fiona and him had spoken before this week was a year ago when her grandmother died. And the last time he saw her in person was 2 years ago when she returned her engagement ring. And Sarah asked why he went to go see her, but he says he doesn't want to tell her why because this is not how he wants to talk to her about this. And she basically just says, well, tough fucking shit, because that's what
girl,
we're doing.
bye.
Sarah asks,
You don't want to talk to me? There's the door.
just tough fucking shit, because that's what we're doing. Sarah asks if Declan still has feelings for her. And he says, of course I do, but not what you think. And then Sarah just can't look at him anymore. And she is so hurt by this because he just said he still had feelings for his fucking soon to be ex-wife in limbo. They just sit in silence. And she asks if he's really not going to talk to her. And he says he doesn't have anything to say. So she tells him that he should just fucking go. And that if he doesn't want to tell her what's happening, then to just go. Declan says that if that's what she wants, he will. And he'll call her in a few days. And then he leaves. She goes to her bedroom.
Don't bother.
Right? She goes to her bedroom, picks up a pillow. And of course, after she's done screaming, she hears knocking at the door. It's Declan. And she tells him to go away.
Keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
She tells him to go away and leave her alone. And he said that he changed his mind. Open the door. And he is not going to let her overthink this. He wants to explain. And he tells her that he is not in love with Fiona. And of course, he had feelings for her because he grew up with her and married her, but he does not love Fiona. He doesn't talk to her. He doesn't think about her. And the reason he went to go see her was to sign the divorce papers because he wants to finalize the divorce. The reason why he didn't sign the divorce papers before is because it's very expensive to get divorced, which, by the way, it is very expensive to get divorced. They agreed on a separation period for a year or two while they got their shit together because there's a lot of debt going on. And he doesn't make a lot of money running this bar. And Sarah wants to know why now. And Declan says because he thought that there was the beginning of something between the two of them and he didn't want this hanging over his head. So that when he finally did tell her about all of this, he could answer her questions. There wouldn't be any doubt. And he's like, you told me you didn't want a relationship. And I'll be honest with you, Sarah, I wasn't planning on one either. Not with the bar being so busy and the business finally beginning to take off, but nor am I stupid enough to turn my back on something good just because I wasn't expecting it. I kept messing things up when it came to you, and I wanted so badly to get this part right. I wanted to tie up that part of my life so you wouldn't look at me like that. And apparently, the woman didn't sign the papers. While he was there, Fiona refused to sign them. Of course, the as they're having this conversation, Paul calls. It's their mom, and she was in a car crash. And the two of them,
Gee, guess who was driving?
get Annie. So the two of them are off to go see her. She's perfectly fine, by the way. Some kid was running into the street, and Mary had reached down to grab her purse at the wrong time. And Annie slammed the brakes on, and the mom hit her head against the dashboard. But she's fine. They're insistent she goes to the doctor, and she's like, no, doctors are expensive. So no, thank you. And also, her mom is a little bit drunk now because of the whiskey down. Because fucking Annie. God damn Annie. So Sarah goes in to talk with Mary, and they have the really cute, really cute moment. And Mary tells her that Declan looks so much like his old self, and that when she saw the two of them together, she really thought, and she just trails off. Sarah tells her that Declan told her about Fiona. Apparently, Fiona had an affair. He was very heartbroken at first, but he's been happier ever since she left. Declan and Sarah decide after all this to go for a walk, and they end up in front of Declan's apartment, and he invites her up. And they talk some more about their dating history and how Declan has never had rebound sex at all. He has had some girlfriends, but they didn't really last too long. And then he met her, and then they kiss, and she accidentally lets it slip that she dreams about him. And he asks her to tell him about her dream because he wants to know what she likes. But if she can't tell him, maybe she can show him. And then they kiss some more, and then they have sex.
We don't get to know that.
That's what she says. She says, I can't tell
I
you.
know.
But
I
then they
mean,
have
on
sex.
page, right? But
The next morning, Sarah realizes she's excited to see Declan in bed and she doesn't want to leave. And she can just stay and watch him. He leaves, though, because he's got to go do some things.
he got a call from the bar. There's an emergency at the bar. They have a water leak. He's got to go check it out, but he wants her to stay and be waiting for him when he gets back. He's going to go take care of that. He wants her in bed waiting.
Perfect. Yeah. And to just make herself at home, but don't grab certain coffee. Too bad. She does it anyways. And as she's making herself at home,
I think he was just kind of like teasing her, being like, yeah, explaining where the coffee was.
yeah, I think so too. And as she's making herself at home and making coffee, there's a knock at the door. Turns out Fiona's there. She lets Fiona know that he is not there and he just left. And Fiona asks if she can just leave something for him. Fiona has brought the divorce papers. Apparently, though, she had this huge plan to bring the papers and explain herself to him. So, whatever.
She learns from Fiona that Fiona feels guilty because when Declan came to Chicago, she was like all excited because she had been thinking of him and thinking about rekindling. And all of a sudden he appeared. So she's like, oh, he must be feeling the same way. Like this is fate kind of thing. Fantastic. And then he asks her to sign divorce papers and she just reared up and snapped back and she was really mean to him and aggressive and refused to sign them. And now she's feeling really guilty. And she's just really sweet and like really upset. And Sarah starts spiraling because she feels like she is the other woman and the wife clearly still wants her husband and she is just spiraling and now she's not going to sit here and wait for Declan. She needs to go see him right now. So she takes the packet of divorce papers and goes to the bar to see him.
Yes, with a letter that Fiona wrote.
Because
Sarah,
Fiona was worried that she might chicken out and she wrote him a letter.
Sarah, of course, puts her foot in her fucking mouth and won't tell him what Fiona had said to her. But Sarah just says, "Don't be mad at her. She didn't say anything bad about you.
Well,
This
because he can
is
obviously see that she's upset.
right. This is me. You need to take some time to think about this. I'm not breaking up with you." And he calls her out, calls her out saying, "How do you break up with someone when you won't even admit that we're at the start of a relationship?" And she knows that he's not like Josh, but Declan even calls her out and says, "Do you? Because it feels like every chance you get, you try to find something to drive us apart." He does call her out for being a chicken shit. She's basically just chicken shit. And that he doesn't give a shit what Fiona did. He told her that he feels nothing romantically for her, but Sarah is so convinced that he's secretly in love with her and that, thank you for dropping this off. And I'm sorry again about your job, but you need to take care of yourself. So he basically tells her to go away because he is in it and he's like told her, like, I nothing. But
Well, this
Sarah's
man
spiraling
literally went all the way to Chicago to divorce his wife when,
for Sarah.
right, for her to start something with her. And now he's like, he feels like a slap in the face.
Yeah, because she's being a dumbass.
Well, she also just doesn't want to feel like
No,
she's the
because
one who's coming in between them.
I understand that, but when a man has like reiterated this so much to you, the point of he hadn't
Trauma,
filed the divorce paperwork for 2 years and now like he meets you and he's like, I need to do this. She just,
trauma.
I know. Yeah. So then we fast forward 2 weeks and Sarah's with her dad. We learn that the last time she had seen Claire at the apartment, they got into a huge argument and that Claire was sick of seeing her be on this self-pity train and that she needs to now find a new roommate because she does not want to live with this new version of Sarah and that Sarah needs to talk to him. And Claire,
She was just giving her a
hats
little
off.
bit of tough love. She
Oh, for
wasn't
sure.
really,
She
yeah.
fucking needs the tough love because Sarah's being an idiot. There's so many other words wanted to come out of my mouth, and idiot was the first one. Sarah then opens up to her dad about Declan. And even though Declan explained everything with the wife, it just still didn't feel right. Sarah said, she's very pretty. And her dad's like, I don't like you talking about yourself like that because Sarah's really putting herself down. And then he explains, I sometimes wonder if I should have shielded you more after what happened with your mother. And other times, if I had been more honest with you about how hard it was, I loved your mother very much. A part of me still does. But when she left, it broke my heart. I don't blame your mother for what happened, Sarah, not anymore. She was unhappy, and I knew she was, but I pretended not to see it and that her mother had broken his heart, but it's healed. And apparently, he's also been dating some people, and she had no idea. But her dad does tell her that she needs to talk to Declan and not to just shut him out because of what happened between her mom and him. And don't give up on your happiness just because you're scared. It won't last forever, which is true. She's being a dumbass. So then Sarah goes to O'Shea's, and it's very busy in there, and she is there to grovel what she's there for. Wearing the same black dress she wore. Declan is behind the bar and she's been watching him for the last few minutes and he's very, very, very busy. And she should wait until his shift is over, but like she should also just get over herself. So she heads to the bar and sits down and orders a whiskey
She's
from
just
another.
afraid she's going to lose her nerve.
She's a dumbass. She orders a whiskey, but instead of a whiskey, Declan comes over and puts a giant, bright pink drink right in front of her and tells her it's her punishment and that there is whiskey in it. It's just very, very, very small amount. And he wants her to drink it. And so she does. And then he goes, that'll be $17. I'm like, oh, Declan's mad, mad. Then she heads over to the bathroom to try to get the taste of it out of her mouth. And she realizes he is very mad and that she is definitely not forgiven. And she heads back out into the hallway and Declan just randomly appears. He does not seem very keen to forgive her right away, but he also did know that she was coming because Paul was not very subtle when he was texting her. And she did say that, she knows that he's probably still mad at her, and that's fine, but she wanted to tell him that she was in love with him. And he seems a little shocked by this. And then he admits that he's in love with her and that he has been in love with her for a while. And then she asks him, how long is a while? And she kind of gets upset because she's like, no one has ever told me that they're in love with me before. She's not actually mad, by the way. She's very happy. And he lets her know that the papers are signed, and then he kisses her. And then we get an epilogue which is 10 months later, and we learn that Mark moved back to New York and him and Claire moved in together, and that's the end of the book. Wee!
And also
The end
that
of my life.
Sarah and Declan moved in together.
They moved in together, they lived into an apartment together, blah, 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 blah. Happy ever after. The end.
Whoa, now, Nelly. Okay.
Who was your
On
favorite
that
character?
note, My favorite?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll go that route. Don't we usually do least first, but we'll do that.
I think sometimes we flip flop them, so
Whatever.
it's fine.
I liked Claire.
I do too. I also really like Declan though. That's my own thing. There need more communication between the two of them, but I did like him a lot.
Yep.
He seems like a guy I would bang.
Who was your least favorite character?
Is that how I'm gonna rank my MMCs if I would bang
I
them?
mean, wouldn't that be most of them?
No, there are some I probably wouldn't sleep with.
Who was your least favorite character?
Um, I didn't really like, obviously, I didn't like Matthias. I didn't like her
Hmm.
boss Harvey because he was a spineless piece of shit. Matthias for being a dick nugget. Oh, I also really liked Will though. I meant to put that in there. I did like Will. Will was good. Anyways, hated Matthias, hated Harvey, the douche canoe boss. That's about it. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthias was just yucky.
He was so yucky and
So
sleazy.
was the boss, Harvey. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her mom.
Yeah. Yeah, her mom just dipped.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
So, Amazon gives us a 4.0 and Goodreads a 3.8.
What do you give it?
I'm gonna
Since you
say
paused for so long.
I had to think about it. I hadn't
I know,
made
I
it.
was like, I'm waiting for her to ask me,
I
but
hadn't rated it
okay.
yet.
Oh,
I'm gonna say like a 3.5.
I rated it 3 stars. I probably would have been a 3.5 if it hadn't have been closed.
We don't have to do cucumber because there wasn't any. So we're
I
gonna
know there
skip
was like a
over it.
hint of possibly might be,
Yeah,
and then it
I
was
mean,
like, no,
I
in one
think
scene.
like if I went in with the mindset knowing that this was gonna be closer, I would have been fine. Like it doesn't bother me.
We
I
wouldn't have
some
picked it,
That's true. This is an
but
Arielle
you
pick.
meant
So
as a
you
personal
listen, if any
three.
of you guys have a problem with this book, you can blame the other person who is in this podcast because I am not the one who picked it, sucker.
Listen, we have read her before and
We
it
have,
wasn't
yeah.
closed door.
I don't know. That's what it is. Again, it could just be the style of book it was, or even just
Yeah, maybe we
when it
should look
was.
that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too lazy to do that.
Survivability.
So I would do great. I would have punched a lot of people though, so I would have been
Yeah.
fired way earlier.
Am actually disappointed because if it was me, I would have scooped Declan up and moved to Ireland
Me
with
too.
my bestie,
I'm
and we
like,
would
okay,
have
peace out, bitch. I'm gonna
been to
bang the
Ireland
fuck
with
out of
our
this dude.
Irish brothers and lived in Ireland and had Irish babies, and that would have been me.
That is true. That sounds so great. All I can think of is watched Once Upon a Time, right? Doesn't the dude who played Hook, doesn't he have an Irish accent?
I'm trying to remember. He does have, yeah, it might have been.
Well,
Oh, I watched it when it came out,
yes,
so it's
he
been
is
a while.
because his name is Colin O'Donoghue.
I do love me
Oh,
some
his
Irish
birthday's
action.
only 3 days after mine, and he's 43. He's so
He's too
hot.
old for you then. You like him
No,
young.
it does. He is so hot.
Perfect for me, but you like him young.
You act like I've never dated anybody older than me.
No, I know. I'm just teasing. Just your preferred.
The right person.
People are people.
He's so hot.
Well, as long as they're consenting
But
and
anyways,
above a
he's
certain age.
Irish. He is straight from Ireland. Anyways, that's all I can think of.
So, what are
Ooh,
we gonna read next week,
yes.
baby?
So Wheel of Fate, bitch.
It's gonna be May, the end of May.
Yo.
But new
Yeah.
wheel, fabulous.
New wheel, bitch.
Fabulous.
Let us see. So this is the new beautiful
Let it
wheel.
spin, let
It's
it
so
spin,
big.
let the new wheel spin.
Let's see if I'm gonna cry for the end of May. Am I gonna cry?
Mhm.
Who knows? Let's go. Let's go, bitch. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got?
Let's go, bitch.
Bishop.
Oh, this is the Mafia one. Bishop by Eden Summers. In a moment of weakness, I send out a cry for help, one that was answered by my estranged brother's right-hand man, a mafia murderer, a butcher. He storms into my life with his expensive suit pockets full of sedatives and cable ties in case I don't approve of his form of authoritative protection. Let me assure you, I don't. But when my world falls apart and I have nowhere else to go, I'm forced to escape with him to an isolated house. Just the two of us, alone. It quickly becomes clear that the dangerous people I've been afraid of are nothing in comparison to the man in the room next door to mine. Dun dun dun. Bishop is a standalone dark mafia romance novel with a morally gray, possessive anti-hero and includes forced proximity, touch her and die vibes, and a lot of red flags that Arielle thinks are green.
Let the red flags fly, baby.
Let the games begin.
Yes. So exciting.
Baby, let the bit games begin. Let the
Let the
games
games
begin.
begin. Oh my God, I just noticed the sweatshirt you're wearing. I knew you put one on, but I didn't realize. No one can see this, but Ariel's wearing a Tortured Poets Department sweatshirt, and it's so cute.
I ordered it so big and comfy.
Anyways, so
Yeah.
join us
Oh yeah,
next
we
week.
have to actually finish.
We do.
So yes, join us next week for this fun time as Crystal regrets
Cries.
her choices one last time.
But it's the end of May, and it's the end of my torture for now. Till I have to do the specials, because apparently I'm the special bitch.
You are a special bitch.
I'm really not.
But make sure that you keep reading.
And to keep it smutty. I don't know what that was, but here we are.
Oh fuck.
Oh, fuck.